My name is Ashley Evans, and I'm living in Japan, and I'm pregnant. So I wanted to make a series about my experience month by month. Yeah, that's it. So let's start with who I am. Again, I've said my name. I am from Houston, Texas in America. I've been in Japan for about 3.5 years with my husband. We've been teaching English for a very long time. It's not my passion. My passion is actually museum work. But my Japanese is pretty crappy, so I can't really do that. And so I decided to go ahead and start my family. Why not, right? So I'm currently working part-time at an after-school program while I'm teaching English. And it doesn't really require too much. It's not too stressful. It's pretty good, actually. This year is 2021. Last year, 2020, I had an unfortunate miscarriage at about 9 weeks, and I suffered severe depression, obviously. It was a sad time. I felt like my body couldn't create a life, and that I'd never have children, and is God punishing me? It was all those awful things, and it wasn't until after I asked my doctor. I was like, hey, could I get some antidepressants? It was the first time I've ever been on them before, so that was a new first one for me. He gave me a very easy medicine, one that was serotonin based, my level of serotonin, so I could not be as sad. It worked enough to help me just even out, if that makes sense. And it really didn't end until about 2 months ago, where I had a conversation with my great aunt. She is basically my faith rock, my rock of faith. I love this woman so much, and she loves me. And we talked it out, and I was talking about how we talk about the issue of the typical things people tell you, like, oh, it's in God's plan, God's time, and you're just like, what does that really mean? What am I waiting for? I don't understand. And so we talked about it. We talked about it practically, about basically fate and things that I can't foresee that could make it really difficult for a child to be in this world. There could have been something wrong with the child. There could have been something wrong with me. It could have been literally anything. And for some reason that gave me some form of comfort of thinking that, whenever you see a movie, right? The first time you watch it, you have no idea what's going to happen. But you watch it again, you know what's going to happen, right? And you're not as antsy about it. Even if you know the outcome, you're a little less antsy. And thinking about it like that, God's seen the whole movie, and I haven't. And, things that it wouldn't make sense for certain things to happen at a certain time because of the events that will happen, if that makes more sense. And that's how I kind of took away from it and began my healing process and began to feel better. I was very angry. I think I'm allowed to be, I suppose. But I didn't want to be too angry. I wanted to be happy. And I didn't want to be anxious. I didn't want to be sad anymore. And she was like, you gotta let that anger go. And we had this boo-hoo moment where I was crying my eyes out. It was nasty. It was like, I need to take a shower after the cry, kind of cry. But generally, I've, been okay since. Really just okay, which is really good for me. And I'm really been happy. Following that month, I found out I was pregnant. So, yay! That's a little bit about me and the struggle I've been having in about the last year. I've been married with my husband for about 5 years. This year is our 5th year, and we've been trying for about a year, officially. There might have been a few times where we maybe should have, but nothing really came out of it. So, guys, I'm hungry. So let's talk about, me finding out I'm pregnant and some of the symptoms, right? This is what you're here for. So, the month before I was successfully pregnant, I had a really strange menstruation cycle where my cycle started and it stopped. And it was like I spotted for a little bit and then it ended, and I was like, okay, what's going on with my body? Am I just like implantation bleeding? Am I about to like having a baby, or like, is something wrong with me? Like, why would my period just stop for no reason? And after like 4 or 5 days, it like started up again, and I was so devastated because I was like, I'm pregnant, but like couldn't take a test because it's too early. And that was pretty much the end of the depression. That's actually whenever I called my aunt, and we had that whole thing with the boohoo, because I was just so devastated. But the next month it happened again, and I was like, this is so stupid. What's wrong with my body? There has to be something definitely wrong with me, right? So I went ahead and make an appointment with my doctor, which I'll talk about, who I go and where I go. And I was gonna make an appointment to be like, hey, this is strange. My period has been starting, stopping, and starting again. Let's talk about it, right? So I, that day, made an appointment, and that was August? Early August. Currently, it is September. But I want to say my first month, 1 second. There's no point of me guesstimating as to when all this happened, because I have this fantastic app that my actual aunt recommended that I use. It's called, the title of it is My Calendar Period Tracker is what it's called. It looks like the little pink one here. It's like out of focus. It's this one right here. And, excuse the data, but this was the information I had here. It was July. Technically, the 10th is the day that I started spotting, and the cool thing about this app here is that you can actually, let's say today is the 10th, right? I could mark symptoms that I'm having. Currently I'm in the pregnancy mode, but if you're just not in that mode, you can talk about when you're ready to start your period and whenever you're ready to end it. You can also mark you have intercourse, and you can actually manage, and it can actually be different variations too, just to express like where your moods are, where your hormones are, how you are, and what type of interaction you have with other people or yourself. And it's a pretty cool app. Again, I was able to mark whenever I actually started all this. So on the 10th of July, I had spotting. I have it marked here. It stopped, and then on the 14th, I started my actual period, and it ended. I didn't mark that information. It was about 5 days, right? Now, by this point, I was kind of like fed up about the whole like marking all of my ovulation and my menstruation and like whenever I have like intercourse or stuff like that. So I stopped marking whenever I was having any form of conception date. So I actually have no idea when the actual conception date is. But now the strange part with this is that the staggered menstruation I had is something that was like really irregular, and so it's really hard to actually pinpoint when I was ovulating. That's what was so frustrating, right? Was that I went ahead and my breasts were so sore. They were the sorest things I've ever felt. And I was like, what's going on with my body? This is so strange. So around ovulation, the end of July, I started having this like soreness in my breasts. That was pretty much the only sign I had about ovulation for that time. I kind of didn't mind any of it really. It was kind of what came and went, no big deal. But I was expecting to get my next round of menstrual cycle and didn't get one around the 10th of August. I did have some spotting and then a little bit of breast tenderness, about the same amount that I had for ovulation. But I didn't have any more spotting, and I was like, okay, here we go again, you know. But it didn't really manifest as a full menstrual cycle, and I just started having really strange symptoms. I'm marking on my little calendar right now of like, I had cramps, I had fatigue, I had strange discharge, my breast hurt, I had acne, I had headaches, I was fatigued. I was like, what is wrong with my body? Unfortunately, I actually did not mark what day I did it, but I decided to my husband, I said, alright, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go take a test. And I came up with the positive. I was like, Alex, 2 lines means you're pregnant, right? And he was like, yeah, that's what that means. Both of us, you know, we've been pretty much hurt about having a miscarriage and not being excited for having a baby and being so let down. So the two of us were pretty much really gentle about the whole situation, like, okay, we've got a positive test, let's wait again, let's wait next week, right? On that next Monday, we'll take another test. So we've got 2 positive tests, right? We've got 2 positive tests. I am pregnant. I went ahead and made myself an appointment with my doctor for September, like the first week of September. Nope. It was the last week of August. I had my appointment for my first examination. Now, by this point, I thought at my examination that I was around 6.5 weeks, based off of my last actual menstruation, that 14th of July. And then, of course, the stagger. I was like, could be the 10th, could be the 14th. But I got to the doctor, I'm just going to fast forward a little bit, and he was like, cool, you got a baby. And it's at 5.5 weeks. And I was like, what? That doesn't make sense. Again, the whole strange part of not really knowing when my actual ovulation happened, when we actually conceived, and just all that information was pretty much lost. But I, of course, have to depend on the doctor because, as I can get into a little later, is that he does, I don't know, I'll probably just mark it here on the, look it up later. It's an ultrasound, but it's with a actual device that, so he does an examination, but not for my belly, if that makes sense. Oh, again, description here, there you go. And so with that, he's able to measure the exact embryo and the actual date, and gave me a date. And I want to say that this is all of month 1. I think that's it, because I want to talk about 5 weeks in my next video. The last thing I'll talk about is actually my doctor I go to. It's a clinic. I live in Kanto region, and there is a really famous OBGYN clinic that is a birthing clinic, I want to say. It's lovely. I went there whenever we found out last year. The doctor, I love the doctor, he's great. He's really nice, really gentle as a person. He's really knowledgeable. He doesn't jump to conclusions, and he's in my interest, for my health and my mind, which is something you really need with a doctor like this. Of course, I'm in Japan. He speaks Japanese, I speak English, but I have an interpreter every once in a while. He'll probably be more regular as a friend of a friend, you know, just a friend who just happens to speak really great Japanese, and who actually delivered his son there at the same clinic. So he's pretty mature about the situation. You know, he's been interpreting for us for a bit. I might change to a female friend, perhaps, or if I can, you know, after coronavirus or something gets better, I might be able to get a medical interpreter. But for now, this is what I'm dealing with. Sometimes he speaks English, sometimes I speak Japanese. Again, he performed my DNC, my dilation and cartilage for the miscarriage I had. He's been so excited to see that I'm pregnant, which is so great. But again, I'll talk to you more about that stuff in the next video. Thank you for coming and listening, and I hope you'll be excited for the rest of my pregnancy journey.